Hey guys, Miranda Manticos here, psychic channeler for Divine Feminine Collective, spiritual teacher. So I have a really important soul retrieval message for the collective of the chosen ones, okay? And by the way, by chosen ones, what I'm referring to is those who are here to channel the Christed consciousness for the collective of humanity. Those who are here to channel divine love, which means this could be millions of people, okay? And it means people of all religions, belief systems, no belief system. So this could potentially be a message for all people. However, I feel for now it's going to be sort of a niche message or niche message, as some people say, for those who are already awakening. Okay. So I was called to share this message, but I first had to deal with it within myself. Okay. So I want to kind of explain, and just for the purpose of those who stumble across this video, just what I usually do is share like a short, and then I'll make the full post available on my TikTok or on my YouTube channel. Okay. So if you watch this on Instagram and you want the whole message, go to one of those channels, go to my TikTok or go to YouTube, like and subscribe and watch the video. Okay. But just for the sake of those who may stumble across this, so I just wrote this down so I didn't forget anything. What I'm going to talk about today is soul retrieval, okay? Which is something that's important for everyone, but especially the chosen, okay? Mastery of self. How do you master yourself, right? This is what you came to do. You didn't come here to master everyone else. You came here to master yourself, okay? And defensive light work training, okay? So these are 3 topics, but they're all related. And I feel like they're all part of the same message. So if you stumble across this video and you want to know more, which I feel like everyone should want to know more about this ascension process, okay? Go check me out on YouTube or TikTok and watch the whole video. If you're on TikTok or YouTube, hello, you will have the whole video, okay? So let's just give a case scenario, and we'll use myself so that I'm not like targeting anyone in particular. If you feel called, let's just put it like this. If you feel called to assist humanity in some way, okay, whether you are here as a healer, and that could be like any occupation, right? You may be a therapist, you may be a nurse, you may be a doctor, you may be a metaphysical practitioner, you may be a sound tuner, you may be an energetic worker. All these things fall into the scope of healer, okay? Even though we're all using different modalities, this is still a calling to be a healer. Let me silence my phone. Okay. So if you're in that occupation, we're just going to use that as an example. What called you to that would be the inner knowing, right? That you were here to help, even if you didn't know why or in what way or on what level. Okay, so we're just going to use that occupation as an example. But if you go deeper and you start to investigate, why did you get into healing, right? Why did you begin to help people? Why did you even think it mattered? Why were you called to do this? That's going to lead you down the path of realizing that you chose to do this before you came here on a soul level, okay? And when you dive deeper into that, which I have, and so many like me have, then you're going to understand that in every lifetime that you've come here, you chose to assist, okay? Now, there are people on the planet right now that have never had an earth life before, so I understand that, but there are many here, such as myself, who are very ancient souls. We've been here many times. We've come to help so many times, okay? These people are the people that I'm referring to. Now, this can be applicable even to a person who is having like their first earth life, but usually this is someone who's been many times. So if you've been that person that has always been called to help, let's say, you're a doctor in this life, you've probably been a doctor in other lifetimes. Okay. And the reason this is important is going back and looking at those lifetimes can help you retrieve certain aspects of yourself. That's what soul retrieval is, okay? And there are so many, there's so much reading you can do about this. You can actually do sessions for this, not just with me, but other practitioners. But you can also do this on your own through meditation, okay? You can choose to see and start to witness your other lifetimes. And this actually is going to start happening to people spontaneously. It's probably already started with many people. You're probably noticing your dreams are amping up. You're remembering things. You're having these feelings of deja vu. It's kind of like the Matrix glitching kind of thing, but it's actually you remembering who you are, okay? That you've had all this experience and all these things are going to relate to where you are right now. So if you start to bring all this together, I'm going to use myself as an example now. I've been a spiritual teacher in many lifetimes. Okay, so if you go back far enough, there have been lifetimes where I was martyred for being a spiritual teacher. Just like there were people who were martyred for their psychic abilities, or there were people who were martyred because of their healing abilities or their gift of prophecy, and I mean, this is not just a Christian story. This is not just a Muslim story. This is not just a story for people who are branded as witches and killed. This is kind of an every person story in the sense that if you were born with abilities and a bright light within you, guess what? The darkness knew that you arrived. Okay? So it's quite possible that you've been targeted in every lifetime. And that's why I said this can also be a story for people who are having their first Earth life right now, because if they've had traumatic experiences in their current life and they've never revisited those experiences to soul retrieve themselves, there can be, look at it like holes in the aura or weaknesses in the being that aren't meant to be weak. They're meant to be actually very strong and very powerful. But because the trauma still sits there, the person is kind of like incomplete. We'll put it like that. Okay. So it can be relevant to this life for anyone who's viewing, their current life. But it's really important to look at the other timelines. And the reason why I say this, so I'm going to go a little deeper here, and this might be a trigger warning for people who are super religious, okay? I'm not very religious. It's not because I don't respect religion. I know that it's had a purpose in some instances, but I also know that it has been used for darkness many times, over and over, over and over, over and over. So trigger warning on that. I'm sorry if you're very religious and this triggers you. However, if you want to grow, you have to be willing to see, okay? And we kind of all should know this because no matter what religion we're coming from, every religion has its prophets, every religion has its mystics, its storytellers, and all of those prophets always prophesied against the current organized system of religion. So in my instance, growing up Christian, I'm going to look at Jesus, right? And I'm going to say, what did Jesus say? And I still turn to Jesus for all of my guidance. And he's the one that led me down the path of soul retrieval. But when I turn to Jesus, I go back to his ministry and I see him condemning the current organized religious system of things. Why? Okay. Now, we know from just looking at scripture that one of the reasons he did this was because they turned religion into a business, right? And he didn't like that. And the people didn't have the money. And so the religions were charging the people more than they were supposed to for like animal sacrifices, which this is in the Old Testament, but it's also in the New Testament. So he didn't like that. He said, you turned my father's house into a house of robbers. You're robbing the people. Now, at surface level, that looks like a money scheme, right? And it is, okay? However, we as chosen ones were supposed to go deeper than surface level. We were supposed to see what else he was talking about. And that requires us to be willing to see everything. And the everything that I'm talking about is that in the life that I lived, and I was martyred, okay, a lot of these religions were the ones practicing the satanic rituals. And I know a lot of people in metaphysics know this. I know that this is not a new concept that I'm telling you about, but it is new for people who are newly awakening. And this is why I think it needs to be discussed, okay? If you're newly awakening, it can be very difficult to hear that a church that you've always loved, that you've always supported, was actually part of dark ritual. But it was. Why do you think they killed Jesus? Why do you think the martyrdom went on for hundreds of years? Why do you think it still happens now? Okay? And by the way, this is not about doctrine or any of that. Let's go a little deeper, okay? Because this is what the Christ consciousness is about, is truth, okay? Truth, which, by the way, requires surrender and letting go of what you think you know so that you can be taught. And that's biblical. The Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. What does it mean to be meek? Meek means teachable. If you're so stuck in what you think you know, you can't be taught. And that goes for anything, right? Like we could apply that to science. We think we know everything about science, but guess what? The way we learn is new concepts, right? We could apply that to anything: medicine, science, religion, history. We think we know the whole story of history. We don't. We have not been told the story of history, okay? In your DNA, you know it. That's where you know it. But what was written, what was given to us, was not what happened, okay? So on some level, everybody kind of needs to start realizing that and realize how easy it is to lie to humanity because nobody knows. This is why awakening is so important. Ascension is so important. Remembering is so important. And this requires soul retrieval, okay? So let's go a little deeper, okay? So I was actually explaining this to a client today. So if you didn't tell the story as a religious story or a light versus dark story or a good versus evil story, but you just told it like a scientific story, okay? Oh, we just use, we could just use mechanics, okay? Like, let's say we both have a car and there's a good person that has a car and there's a bad person that has a car, but we can both drive the car, right? We both know how it works. This is the situation humanity has found itself in. There's magic here. There's the quantum field. There's light, and it can all be used. But it is energy that can be used, right? And there are multiple drivers here. Some are good and some are bad. And so understanding how the science of magic works and the quantum field actually helps you to take your power back, okay? So if I know how to channel energy a certain way, or how to cast light a certain way, or to work in metaphysics a certain way, then understand that darkness knows this too. Okay? So I'm leading you somewhere, and this is where it's going, okay? If you lived in these other timelines, the timelines of martyrdom, of any religion, okay? So many people were killed during these timelines by colonization and the Spanish Inquisition and other things probably that I don't even know about, okay? So I'm just quoting those two, but it could be many, okay? It is possible that you endured satanic ritual because of your light, because you were powerful. And I'm not saying this to traumatize you. I'm just telling you to wake up and be willing to see what happened to you so that you can heal it, okay? And then the result of that is you become a more powerful being in this current timeline. And the win here is that you channel more light. You become an unstoppable force. You rise. You ascend. But you must be willing to see what you went through to heal it. It's no different than in this life if you suffer trauma and you went to a doctor and you were like, I had this experience. I don't even know how to heal. I don't know, right? And you maybe were encouraged to get therapy. Calm your nervous system. Maybe you needed medication. Whatever the steps were to retrieve yourself, okay, in this life would be similar to the other lifetimes, okay? And the reason all of this is so important is what we're trying to do here, and I believe we are actually really succeeding. Believe it or not, as crazy as things look, we're making progress, is we are attempting to get all the light workers awake, okay? They are sleeping giants. And they have to wake up. And as they wake up, the grid of light becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And what we're able to do here for humanity gets better and better and better. Okay? So if you consider yourself a humanitarian or a philanthropic person or a person who cares about humanity, one of the best things you can do right now is go see yourself. Go look at yourself. Go look at your life. Go look at your past lives. Find out why you love them so much. Why do you love them? Because you came from God, and God loves humanity. Okay? So if you came from God here to this realm to help this realm, then you are carrying a great love within you, a powerful force. It is an unstoppable force, okay? But if there are fragments of you, just trickling out everywhere, entangled, quantum entanglement, friend of mine, we always talk about this, then you got to unravel yourself, right? You got to unravel those hooks that are holding you. And you didn't know it, okay? You didn't know it because you woke up without a clear, view. So when you were born here and you came through, you were not able to see, and your parents couldn't remember, and nobody taught you. And so if you had experiences as a child, like I did, prophetic visions, I could see the past, I could see the future, I could see all kinds of stuff, and your parents didn't know, well, guess what? You've been sleeping all your life, because even though you kind of knew you had abilities, you weren't fully awake either because there wasn't the support that you needed. Okay? And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry that we all went through that. But it is now your duty to parent yourself and to begin to nurture who you truly are. This is why living in authenticity is so important, okay? So important. And I know it's not easy, guys. I know it's hard to be rejected by so many. And most of us have been rejected many, many times because we're different. But right now, it is like the most important thing you can do to be different. And to truly see yourself, love yourself, choose yourself. And this is not selfish behavior that I'm talking about. I'm just saying, speak your truth. It's what's going to lead to your liberation and the liberation of all humanity. And if our collective could just see that those most oppressed in this world are actually fighting for all of them, they'll begin to understand our need to rise. And this is a peaceful process, by the way. What I'm encouraging people to do is, it's not a violent thing. You're not harming someone else. You're just going in and finding yourself. And you're saying, hey, you don't get to channel my light anymore. I channel my light. I get to choose how I spend my energetic currency here. No one else gets to do this anymore. I'm not your battery. Right? When I first really, really woke up to that, I remember my angel saying, and I could hear her talking through me, and she said, the buffet is closed. You feed on me no longer. I know who I am. Right? And isn't this something that you wish for all who are chosen to come here and wake up and raise this collective up? Right? So if this is your passion, if you are these people that I see, wonderful, kind, loving souls, so many, you guys, so many, so much diversity in the groups of individuals who are just speaking up, each in their own way. Some are sound tuning people, some are doing energy work, some are praying with people, some are teachers, I'm just seeing so many posts, people after people after people. It's incredible to see this, okay? And really touching. And really, in these moments, guys, spiritual teachers, and I can say this because I am one, we struggle too, okay? We're going through all these things as well. And still we take time because we love humanity to share with the collective. And I see this in all these different channels that I follow. I see people who are really stepping forward with what they've experienced, not fully even understanding it and trying so hard to give it, right? To give it to others so they can see. So this is truly an act of love, of divine love. And so as a collective, what we can do to support each other is going to be so impactful, okay? And by the way, something as simple as just acknowledging what the person is saying. taking some time to actually just look at yourself and say, could this be true about me? Could I have gone through this in another lifetime? Could they still be trying to harness my power in some other timeline? Why, yes, they could. And if it was a timeline where you didn't know as much who you were, absolutely, because you wouldn't have known how to shield yourself. So don't close your eyes. Don't choose not to see what was done in the name of God, which was actually not God. Okay. So this is, I think the awakening is going to really require for humanity to really just be deconstructed in their thinking. By the way, I can speak personally to that because I came out of a cult religion. My childhood religion was a cult religion. High control. Couldn't read anything else, couldn't do anything else, couldn't witness the story, right? And I know what it's like to break out of a religion like that, okay? And it can mentally shatter you, depending on how you view your belief system, okay? So I'm not saying this is easy for people, okay? What I'm saying is it is life-saving and worthy of doing, okay? Worthy of doing the healing work, okay? So, and by the way, get help. So if you start to awaken and you're witnessing things or you're dreaming about things you don't understand, okay, get some help. That's what spiritual teachers are for, spiritual practitioners. Also, therapists and psychiatrists could be helpful. You can find doctors who are open-minded to spiritual beliefs and spiritual practices. So I see so many doctors. Actually, even here, I've done sessions on many nurses and doctors who are waking up to the fact that you are not just your body, you are a mind-body-soul connection, okay? And that treating the quantum being is actually the best way to treat the being, okay? So you can also find, I would say, traditional medical support with doctors who are awakening as well. So whatever avenue of support you're wanting, get it, okay? Get the support you need, but do the work to wake up and heal yourself. This is what changes people's lives. This is what redirects you to your path. This is what helps you pivot into light and to start seeing the miracles that you were meant to see in this life and stop the suffering and the trauma and all the stuff, okay? So that being said, I touched on this a moment ago, but I'm going to touch on one more thing. I know this is a long video, but it's a worthy watch, okay? As you do this and you begin to retrieve yourself, you become more whole, you begin to master yourself, okay? As you begin to master yourself, this is when you're going to get these deeper downloads from your guides, and they begin to teach you how to use your light as a defensive technique, okay? This is when you learn how to shield yourself and others. I do this all the time. And the more you practice this, just like meditation, the better you become at it. So imagine, being able to use your light just in your mind, thinking about something and putting it around someone to protect them, to help them. So this is kind of getting more into the whole alchemy process or transmuting process, but it's a thing, okay, that needs to be looked at. We are quantum beings. We are part of the quantum field. We are part of all the light that is, right? So our thoughts project a frequency that influence the quantum field. The more you learn how to use that, the less chance you are being misused in innocence. Does that make sense? So, I know that that's a lot of subjects in one, but it felt like it was so important. And it's something I've been through for years. And when I began to witness these things about my past lives, because I've always been in these lives where I'm like, I've seen, I guess, a couple of regular lives in myself, maybe. But most of them were like, I was a priestess, I was the healer. I was like a guide. A lot of times I'm a guide to people. So sometimes I'm not even in these realms. I'm like an angel guide to people. When you start seeing this in yourself and you guys do just like 5 minutes every day of gentle meditation. You can put some beautiful music on and tell your angelic guides that you're willing to see and learn. Close your eyes, turn the music on, and just sit there for 5 minutes. It's not going to hurt you. Do it outside. It'll be even stronger, okay? Get into the earth realm and just let nature teach you, and just jot down every time you do this what you get. What do you get? Colors, shapes, messages, what? Because stuff's going to start coming, okay? As you can work your way through this, you're going to really realize this is what's going to heal you, okay? And I've seen it firsthand in my own life, and I've seen it in clients' lives. This can literally bring you through your deepest healing. And it can lead to your greatest joy as well. Okay. So, I don't know who needed to see this. I feel like everybody needs to see it. But if it was for you, then there you go. Okay. I love you all. I believe in you all. I know that we can do this. Okay. And by the way, I love everyone sharing all the cool things they're experiencing and seeing in the skies and in the water. Keep it up, because it's going to help everybody start to question, right? And when you start to question is when you start to grow. So I love it. Good job, guys. I hope this helps. Love you all. Bye.